Welcome back to my channel. My name's Noelle, aka Makeup Esquire, and today I filmed this fun, pinky, fresh look for spring using new products that I recently picked up at the Sephora sale. On my eyes today, I used the Danessa Myricks Groundwork palette that I used for the first time. On the lips today, I have the Westman Atelier new lipstick in the shade Minx. I picked up enough products from the recent sale to film multiple videos just like this. Please let me know by leaving me a comment down below if you would like to see more videos like this. So let's get started. I don't have anything on my face other than SPF and primer. At the Sephora sale, I recently purchased these two SPFs to try out. This is the Lion Pose Ghostbuster Broad Spectrum SPF 42, and I've already used it a few times and it pills underneath anything I put on top of it. Unfortunately, because it does have a nice smell of cucumber and it has a nice tint to it, so it doesn't leave any type of a white cast. I recommend it if you're looking for a sunscreen that you're not going to be using under makeup, since I usually always put makeup on top of sunscreen, or at least it's nice to have the option to. This is a pricier sunscreen, so I'm not going to be recommending this one. However, this is the Innisfree Daily UV Defense Mineral Sunscreen Broad Spectrum SPF 40, and it has a green tone. I think that's the color correcting part of it. And I do recommend this sunscreen actually because it doesn't pill at all. I actually got this as a recommendation from Stephanie Lita. She recommended it for the same reasons. On my lips, another recent purchase from the Sephora sale is this Fenty Skin Plush Puddin' Intensive Recovery Lip Mask. It's in Kalahari Melon. I already had the other original one that came out. I wanted to try this one just because I was intrigued by the flavor. It's a little bit different in that it has some sparkles in it that the original one didn't have. I'm not too sure how I feel about that. I wasn't expecting it to have sparkles. It doesn't bother me too much, and it's still really moisturizing. I do recommend this formula, so if the sparkles don't bother you, it has a slight watermelon smell. It's quite nice. So that's what I have on my lips to keep them nice and moisturized while I do my makeup. And for makeup primers, I did purchase a few new ones to try out. These are the ones I purchased. This one came as a recommendation from Tati, and I've been trying this one out. I have oily skin, especially since the summer months are coming up and the weather is going to be getting hotter. I wanted to have a few options. This is the YSL blotting lotion. I don't know if any of these are new on the market, but they're all new to me. This one worked really well. I tested it out last night and was happy with it. Then I got this one to try out. This one's the Urban Decay All Nighter Face Primer, and then this one's the Milk Makeup. This one's called the Pore Eclipse Mattifying Primer. I had tried it before in a sample. And then I got a backup of this Sealed Topicals primer. I do really like it, and I'm not necessarily running low, but I see myself going through this entire one and then opening up a new one. This one has peptides, retinol, medical grade silicone, and papain. It's supposed to help pores not only in the short term, but also in the long term. So that one's a nice one if you have enlarged pores on your skin that you want to cover up. So other than SPF and primer, all I did before this was do my eyebrows, and this is a Gucci one. This one is the Powder Eyebrow Pencil in Brun, the shade 4, and I got it because I did purchase, I think during the last Sephora sale, the other Gucci eyebrow pencil, the thinner one, and I was really impressed with it. And I heard that this one was basically a powder and a pencil and was a really quick way to do your eyebrows. I have confirmed that to be true. That's all I have on my eyebrows right now, and I've been really impressed with this. Even though it's not super precise, it's very pigmented and a little bit goes a long way. This is what the color looks like. It's pretty much like a powder in a pencil. I really like it for every day since it's really fast and easy to get your eyebrows drawn on with it. In the morning when I'm in a rush to go to work, this is perfect because I don't have the time to use a tiny one and do a bunch of strokes all the time. So that's what I have on my eyebrows. I purchased a couple of of brow gels that I'll get into later on, so stay tuned for that. As far as foundations go, I did purchase the new Prada foundation. I have been using it for a few days now, so I have some thoughts on this. And then I also picked up the Very Valentino foundation. It's not new, but it's new to me, so these are the two foundations I picked up. I might have to do this Valentino one in a future video, and then I'm thinking about doing the Prada foundation for today. I picked up a few colors since I wasn't sure what my color was, but this one is MN50, which matches me pretty well right now since I'm pretty much at my lightest. I will darken up over the summer. For concealers, I picked up this color corrector from Huda Beauty. This one's in the shade Cherry Blossom. I want to go in and try this out. I've only tried it out one or two other times and I've been pretty impressed with it so far. I'm going to use this to color correct. I have found that a little bit of this goes a pretty long way. So as you can see, I have some hyperpigmentation, some discoloration underneath my eyes that I'm going to go and cover up first. I have some blue in this mustache area that I like to color correct, and then underneath the mouth just a little bit. I didn't pick up any new concealer brushes. I had picked up the House Labs brush during the last sale and I've been really impressed with it, so I picked up the House Labs foundation brush that I might use in this video. But for now, I'm just going to be using this Hourglass brush. If you are looking for a new concealer brush, I do recommend this. I also picked up the 47 brush during the sale. Everybody was raving about it, so this is the Pro Foundation brush number 47. It's the Sephora brand, and it is really good. I've been impressed with it. I've used it for cream blush before this, but I do recommend this Hourglass brush if you are looking for a good concealer brush. I'm gonna go back in with the color corrector to see if it is buildable, because I haven't tried to necessarily build it up before. So far I do recommend this as a color corrector. There's a few different shades. And I also picked up this Glow Recipe Watermelon Glow Niacinamide Hue Drop. This has been all the rave lately. I've been seeing it in so many different Sephora hauls, so I was curious about trying it out. I had seen really good reviews about it. I'm just gonna take my Kit Co palette here and I'm gonna do a couple drops. This is the first impressions on this product since I haven't tried it before. And then I'm gonna take the Prada foundation. This is in the shade MN50. This is a refillable container. Take a couple pumps, add it here to the palette. So I'm just gonna go in with my finger and mix those two together to create kind of a custom shade. This is what it's gonna look like. This is a good way to deepen up any of your foundations that you might find are getting too light for your skin tone during these summer months if you get tan like me. I also picked up this Makeup by Mario F4 brush from the sale. This one had rave reviews, particularly by Andrea Ali. So pretty much anything that woman recommends, she can sell me on. I like it because it's double-sided, and normally I don't like double-sided brushes. They have been becoming more popular lately since Patrick Ta has some dual-sided brushes too. But I will say that I like them for when I'm doing my makeup in the mornings and I'm in a rush and it's easy to just flip over to the other side. So far I have been liking this brush. It's softer than I expected. Going in with a little bit more of that foundation just to see if it's building up nicely. So far so good. Looks like it's a pretty good match to my neck. Might be slightly darker than my neck, but that's okay because we can lighten things up with a concealer. So that's another tip. If your foundation is just a little too dark, you can always lighten it up with some concealer. And if it's too light, you can always warm it up with your bronzer. I'm taking it down the neck and up on the ears just to make sure it's nice and spread out and it doesn't look like I'm wearing a mask. So now I'm gonna go in with concealer, and during the sale I did pick up this Fenty Beauty concealer. I told myself I did not need any more concealers, but I love concealer. I love trying out new concealers, and this one had some rave reviews. This one was highly recommended. I think Nikki LaRose recommended it. I got sucked in and purchased it to try out. I like the little applicator. This doe foot is quite unique and it does a good job of getting into the crevices. So this is a pretty good shade for me actually. It's not super brightening on the skin, but I do think that it'll be more brightening once I start to get a little bit darker in these upcoming months. I stopped myself from picking up the concealer in 2 different shades. I was hearing reviews about this concealer being light coverage. I will agree that it's not super heavy coverage, but I also think that it's enough coverage for every day. I've used it without a color corrector underneath, and it was enough coverage for me on a day-to-day basis. So I'm going to be using the other side of this Makeup by Mario brush, which I've been enjoying for concealer. I've used it for cream blush, for cream bronzer. It's been really great. You can use it for cream contour. Pretty much any cream products that you have, this brush would be good for. And it is a bit larger than I'm used to using as a concealer brush. Usually I'm used to using something smaller like this hourglass brush. Like I said, normally when I'm doing my makeup, I'm in a big rush in the mornings before work. So this is where I like to pick up larger brushes like this because they just get the job done really quickly. So if you're like me and you don't have the time to sit there all the time with this super small concealer brush, I do recommend this brush. And I still like to go in with a smaller concealer brush like this hourglass brush afterwards, just to make sure I get the concealer in those nooks and crannies. So what did you all pick up at the Sephora sale? Leave me a comment down below and let me know. I've been watching everybody's haul videos and first impressions. I love watching other people's videos on what they get at the Sephora sale. Did you get any of the products that I've picked up so far? If you have, let me know what your thoughts are about them. For contour, I did pick up this face contour stick. This one's in the shade Biscuit. This one's the cream contour stick by Westman Atelier, and I already have it in the shade Truffle, which is the darker shade. So I know what to expect with the formula, but I did want to pick it up in this lighter biscuit shade. As you can see, it's like the perfect contour shade for me. So if you're looking for a good cream contour, I do recommend this one. It has a nice cool tone and it's not too intense, as you can see. It's not so dark against my skin that it's a shocking contrast. But I'm going to be going in with that same brush that I used for my concealer, the Makeup by Mario brush, to just kind of blend it out. I'm putting the contour underneath the cheekbones. I always put some on the temple area up here. For cream blush, I brought out a couple options. I got the new Makeup Forever face palettes. This was an impulse purchase that I didn't plan on making, but towards the end of the sale, when I saw all the rave about it online, I just got sucked in. So I thought this would be a good palette to just have handy and have everything in front of me when I'm in a rush again in the morning, since I'm doing my makeup in a rush. Leave me a comment down below if you can relate to always doing your makeup in a rush. Then I also got the Makeup by Mario cream blush. This one's the soft pop plumping blush veil in the shade Just Peachy. So I'll swatch it for you. I have the shade Perfect Pink. If you saw, I picked that up during the last Sephora sale that I used in my previous Get Ready With Me from that sale. And I really did like the formula. It's quite a unique formula, and this helped me get over my FOMO from not being able to pick up the blush in She's the Moment by Patrick Ta. It was sold out during the entire sale. So I was hoping to pick that one up, but I wasn't able to. So instead I picked up this Makeup by Mario one. I have yet to use this Makeup Forever palette. I just used it yesterday for the first time on my friend before we went out for her birthday last night, but I have not tried it on myself. She does have a much lighter skin tone than me, and I found this palette to be really handy when I do her makeup. Some of these colors worked out great. So I'm going to go ahead and take the large part of the F4 brush, and it's a really natural shade of peach. It's not a super pigmented formula, so that could be a good or a bad thing depending on your preferences. But this is a perfect cream blush for your no makeup days, or if you're just using a couple products and want to run out the door. This is a good blush to use for that purpose, or to kind of touch up throughout the day, since it's not so pigmented and it lays on top of powders really nicely as well. I'm gonna also dip into this palette. I'm gonna go in with my 47 brush from Sephora just to switch it up. And today, since we're gonna go for a more pinky look on the eyes, I want to add some of this pink shade right here. I'm kind of doing like an underpainting technique where I'm doing the creams before I powder, and then I'll then do another layer of powder on top just to make sure everything stays in place. During the sale for loose powder, I picked up both of these Huda Beauty loose powders. This one's in the shade Cupcake. This one's in the shade Pound Cake. I already had the shade Cherry Blossom. I do highly recommend these powders. They're really great. I'm very impressed. And the difference between these two is slight. I just couldn't decide which one I wanted. So this Cupcake shade just has like a slightly peachy pinky tone, and this Pound Cake one is more just like a cream neutral tone. So I'm gonna start with the shade Cupcake, pour it into my handy dandy IKEA bowl here. And I'm gonna go in with my Beauty Blender puff, dip into that. And you always just wanna make sure that you get any creasing underneath the eyes out before you powder, just so that you don't lock it into place. Same with the creasing that's going on right here on my eyes. And then I recommend looking up in a mirror if you can during this part. Powder underneath the eyes without getting that creasing to happen. See how that just instantly blurred underneath the eyes? This is a really good powder. I highly recommend it. Now I'm gonna go in with Pound Cake. And because it's a lighter tone, I like using this one to further brighten. You don't have to do this step. Obviously it's optional, but I'm gonna go in and bake with this powder. I don't always go in and bake on an everyday basis like this, but if you do want your makeup to stay in place all day, it'll really stay put. I'm going in heavier in the T-zone because I do have oily skin, and the T-zone is the first place I start to get oily. And a tip is to put some powder right underneath your jawline and kind of let it sit for a while if you want that snatched cheekbone look. And then I always go in and set my eyelids since we have previously put some concealer there. Instead of using an eyeshadow primer, I didn't get any new eyeshadow primers during the sale. I rarely use eyeshadow primers anymore just because the formula of eyeshadows is improving in recent years to the point where a lot of them stay put for a really long time without needing an eyeshadow primer just for a day-to-day basis. It's not always necessary. As you can see, I pretty much powdered my entire face except for my cheek area. So I usually just go in on the cheeks with a pressed powder. I got a couple during the sale. I did purchase the new Hourglass setting powder. This is in the shade Translucent. And I have tried this a couple times. I am pretty impressed with this powder. It's really good. Then I also picked up the Laura Mercier new compact pressed powder. It has a puff on the bottom like this. It's brand new. I have not used this one yet. I'm just gonna go in with a big fluffy brush. This one's a white Canadian squirrel brush, and I'm gonna just tap into this compact and just dust the cheeks. I'm doing this just so that the powder blushes that I'm going to be putting on top don't skip on that area. That can happen if you have any tacky products still on underneath powder products. I'm gonna use this to kind of dust away the bake. Except for the bake on my nose, I'm gonna leave that on for now. For powder blush, I got a few different options during the sale, and this is why I need to do a part 2 and maybe even a part 3, because there's no way I can use all the blushes that I got. But I got a couple more shades of the Gucci blushes since I was really impressed with these, and I have them in a couple of other colors already. Got the shade True Pink, Radiant Pink, and there's one other one. It's more of a reddish tone, so it won't go with this look, so I only brought these out. This one's 07 True Pink. I just love how cute this packaging is. It's so adorable. And then this one's in the shade 3 Radiant Pink. Highly recommend these blushes. I also got a couple of shades in the Valentino blush. I got the shade 9, which is a more coral orangey one, and then this is shade number 1, which is a bright pink. I thought this shade would be really pretty for spring, and I adore this Valentino blush formula. This is their Eye to Cheek dual use blush and eyeshadow blush. First, let's go in and use some powder bronzer. I did pick up a couple of the Gucci powder bronzers. I already have shade 4, but I wanted to pick up a couple extra shades since I just really love this bronzer as well. This one's in the shade 3. Love this packaging by Gucci. And then this one's in the shade 2. I swatched them both, and I've been using this shade number 2 more lately. I really do like how this is more of a neutral tone shade of bronzer than this shade 3, and both of these have less warmth than shade number 4 that I have. This one's in the shade 3, this one's the shade 2. So I wanted to have different shades since my skin tone does change throughout the year. So it's nice to have different options. Do you need more than one of these Gucci bronzers? No, you don't, but you know me, if you want to be extra. So I'm going and tapping in my angled brush here into this shade number 2. This is a perfect shade for like a bronzer. So on a day-to-day basis, since I don't always have time to do a contour and a bronzer, I like using a more neutral tone bronzer. And by that I just mean a bronzer that doesn't have a lot of warmth. It's not so orangey or yellowy. It's more on the neutral side, as you can see. It's not super cool tone like a bronzer, but it's not super orange. And that kind of gives the illusion of a bronzer and a contour in one. I like pulling my skin back like this to ensure a more even application. These are really pigmented bronzers, so a little bit really does go a long way. On my forehead area, I'm just gonna dip into shade number 3 just so you can see a difference between the two. This shade number 3 does have a little bit more warmth in the tone. I couldn't decide which color to get, so I just decided to keep both since they both work for me. I'm going and just shading the perimeter of my forehead just to add some warmth. Then I'm gonna take some down along my neck to make sure that the color matches my neck as well. Let me know if you picked up other products that you think I should get or that you recommend or that you don't recommend. If you don't like any of these products, let me know your thoughts as well. I'd love to know why, since everybody has different skin types and preferences. I just went in with this Hourglass eyeliner in the shade Obsidian. This is their little 1.5 millimeter mechanical gel eyeliner. It's not new to me, but I do really like it since I'm wearing Lashify eyelashes. It's a really thin, small tip, so it really helps to get right underneath those eyelashes to do a nice tight line. Powder blush. I'm gonna do a little bit of the Valentino blush. Okay, I'm gonna go in with the Bobo Chikuhodo natural hair brush, and I'm dipping into the Valentino blush in the shade number 1. I love this formula, it's gorgeous. It's almost creamy feeling in the pan, but it's definitely a powder blush. It just gives such a seamless look on the skin. That's what I like about these formulas that almost feel creamy to the touch. I like putting my blush up higher on my cheeks to give more of a lifted effect, as opposed to putting it too close to the center of my face. But of course, feel free to do whatever works for your facial features. And these blushes are marketed to be used as eyeshadows as well. So I'm gonna go in with a little bit of the Gucci blush, since it's a brighter pink tone. So it's in the shade True Pink, and I actually got this after I saw Jaclyn Hill recommend it. She raved about how this was such a perfect color. I do agree that it's nice to kind of brighten up any of your pink blushes. See how it's a really cool tone pink, so it goes nicely with a warmer tone pink underneath it. I'm gonna carry a little bit of that on my nose, and we'll add more later if we feel the need. So for the eyes today, I'm gonna be using this new Danessa Myricks Groundwork Blooming Romance palette that I just purchased. That's always so satisfying, isn't it? This will be a first impressions of this palette since I have not used it yet, but it has some beautiful pinky tones. The larger squares here are cream formulas, and then their corresponding shade next to them are powders. For this look, I'm going to be using the new Sonia G Traditions set. This was her limited edition brush set that she came out with recently. This is the TS1 here, the TS2, the TS3, and this one's the TS4. These are all natural hair brushes, so they pick up products really well. And using the TS3, I'm first going to go in first with the shade Dreamy right there, cream shade. Now these natural hair brushes are meant to be used with powders only, but these are almost like a cream powder hybrid formula, so I think using these brushes will be okay. I'm just gonna take that shade Dreamy in the cream formula and putting that shade all over the eyelid like so for a nice pinky spring look. So again, just taking this fluffy brush, dipping back in as needed, and just putting a wash all over the eyelid. I'm gonna also take that same color, going in with the TS4, and also taking it underneath the lash line to make sure everything matches underneath just like it does on top. This is a Canadian Squirrel natural hair brush. That blended out really nicely. Even though it's a cream, it really does function almost more like a powder in that. As you can see, I didn't get any skipping or patchiness out of that shade. So far so good. Okay, now I'm going to go in and let's add a little bit of Bliss right below it. And I'm just gonna take that on the same TS3 brush and kind of deepen out these outer corners to give it more dimension. And also going to carry that Bliss shade a little bit up into that crease. His Bliss shade is really pretty. It's like a more purpley mauve kind of shade. I'm gonna also take it into the inner corner and kind of further deepen up that crease area. Those colors are really blending in seamlessly into each other. Now I want to go in to this Smitten creamy shade here and just kind of further brighten up the middle of the eyelid. And then I want to take a little bit of this Crush shade on the other side of this TS2 brush. This is the powder side, and I want to use this to brighten up this inner corner right here. I'm also going to take a little bit of that Crush shade and just tap it on the center of the eyelid, just like so. I want to take a little bit more of that powder side and dreamy and just kind of set the crease in place, the outer and the inner corners as well. Just like we did on the rest of our face where I did creams first and then powders on top, I'm doing kind of the same idea with these powders and creams, just to set the creams in place with the powders. I'm not being super precise with this look. I'm kind of just doing a nice blown out, really girly pinky look for spring. And then I'm gonna also carry that dreamy powder on the bottom of the eyelid using the TS1. The TS1 is a more small definer brush that you could also use for the blown out eyeliner. Taking that dreamy shade all across the lower lash line. Pretty. I'm just gonna wipe this TS1 off on my microfiber towel that I have right here, and then I'm gonna go in with a darker shade. Let's take a little bit of this Lovesick shade right along the lash line. I'm using the cream side first. I'm kind of flicking it outward just a little bit too to create kind of a shadow before going in with a darker liner. And this is a good way of kind of mapping out your eyeliner before going in with something darker afterwards. I'm just kind of sloppily applying that shade along my lash line, not being super precise. And then I'm gonna also take a little bit of that Lovesick shade on the lower lash line as well, on the outer and inner corner. And then I'm gonna go in with the powder side in Lovesick. And then I'm just going to set that cream shadow and just kind of deepen it up. And also going in on the bottom lash line on the inner and outer corners. Now I'm going to take an even thinner brush. I usually use this for my eyebrows, but this is the BK Beauty 208 and it has a super thin tip. It's an angled brush. And I want to go in with this Evermore shade. I'm going to go in with the cream and going in really close to my lash line here. I'm actually going to go in with the powder to see if it shows up a little bit better. And I'm going to create kind of like a wing liner with this powder and to further define the lash line. I'm taking that shade all the way into my inner corner, mainly staying out here in the outer corner. It's a really nice warm brown tone. And just because I'm curious, I do want to dip into XO, which is their darkest shade here, into the powder and really creating more definition on our outer wing here. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm later gonna fix it with the concealer brush, kind of flicking it outward on the outer corners, taking a little bit into the inner corner as well, and really tight lining up against the lash line. I'm gonna kind of create a small wing on my inner corner as well. I'm just gonna go back into that Gucci bronzer in the shade 2 to do a little bit of a nose contour, taking it up into my eyebrows just a little bit, and then just going in with my concealer brush and touching it up to make sure it's not too harsh. I'm just gonna go in with this Tensado brush and kind of clean up. Now let's just add a little bit of glitter. I recently purchased during the sale, I got this Diamond Bomb powder by Fenty and How Many Carats. This one is in the shade 1 and it's basically just sparkles in a pan. And I'm just gonna do a wash of sparkles on the eyelid just to show you how pretty this is. It's tempting to leave it matte because that look just by itself is beautiful as well. But if you want to step it up and add a little bit of sparkles, this How Many Carats highlighter is perfect since it goes with any look. It doesn't have a base, as you can see, it's just white sparkles. Not gorgeous? I did not pick up any new mascaras during the sale other than the YSL one that I got from my mom. Since normally I use Lashify, I just do bottom lash mascara, so I'm gonna just be hitting the bottom lashes with this. I didn't put any eyeliner on my bottom waterline today, just because I don't think I need it for this look. I don't want it to be too harsh since it's a lighter spring look. I'm just gonna touch the high points of my face with this highlighter that I got. I got a couple highlighters from the sale. I got this Tom Ford Soleil Neige Glow highlighter in 1 Rose Irisé. And then this is the Dior highlighter. This one's in 02 Pink Glow. The Dior Forever highlighters are so beautiful. I did get this House Labs Rose Quartz highlighter. That's gorgeous as well. This is more like a blush topper, so why don't we just add a little bit to the blush. I'm just gonna take a little bit of this Dior one with my flat brush, touch the high points of the eyebrows. If you go overboard, no biggie. I'm just gonna go over it with the same blender brush that I was using before. Make sure it's not too harsh. I'm gonna take a little bit down the center of my nose and a little bit on the tip. I'm gonna just take a little bit in the inner corner as well. Let me know if you want to see the Tom Ford highlighter in action. I'll have to just use it in a different video. For the final step, we'll do the lips, and I got too many lip products that I want to admit. For this look, I'm really tempted to try this new Westman Atelier lipstick. This one's in the shade Minx. I haven't used it yet, I just swatched it, but look at how beautiful it is. It has a mirror in the inside of the cap, and a magnetic cap as well. It's nice and heavy. It's really luxurious looking, and she has the most beautiful colors. And I did get a few lip liners. It sounded like these Freck lip liners were all the rave for this sale, so I did want to try them out. So far so good. They really do stay put, and they're a really thin tip. So as you know, I overline just the Cupid's bow. Follow the vermilion border everywhere else. And this one is in the shade 4. And if we need to deepen it up, I also purchased shade 5. Going in with the Westman Atelier lipstick. Look at how gorgeous this shade of pink is. The formula feels like a satin formula right now, but I have heard that they dry down and don't stay so glowy like this. The shade is gorgeous. I also picked up these new Guerlain Meteorites from this sale. So as the last step, I'm just going to sweep this all over the face with my big fluffy brush here. This is a beautiful finishing powder. It'll just tie the whole look together. They do have a scent to them, but it smells really nice and luxurious and light. It's not too overpowering. Unless you're really sensitive to scents, then I don't recommend it. And then I also picked up 2 brow gels. Got the new Benefit Precisely My Brow Wax, which is like their cross between their brow wax and their fiber brow gel. And then I also picked up the Kulfi Clear Brow Gel. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the Kulfi one first. I've been liking this Kulfi brow gel. I've used it a couple times now, and it really does a good job of holding up my brows in place throughout the day, and it doesn't leave white flakes. But I also like to use this Precisely My Brow Wax that I've also been trying out, and it works pretty well. Even if you just wanna use this one alone, it has pretty good hold to it. And that's the look, y'all. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Like this video, subscribe to my channel, leave me a comment down below letting me know what you'd like to see next.